everybody. Welcome to well over 90 attendees, and maybe a few more will come in, as I can see. And thank you for joining this pre-race briefing for skippers, navs, other crew. Very good contingent of people that are responding to this, and this should hopefully be a informative time. And as I mentioned before, please drop any questions in the chat. We can address them at the end. As well as myself as presenting, we've got Ray Shaw covering the weather. Andrew Middleton will be covering some elements in relation to the destination and the journey home. We've also got Melissa as well that will talk about some environmental aspects and some of the social media. So I will move on in the pages very soon. The other thing too is if you do have anything that's very specific to you, please reach out to the office in the morning or to me on the race director phone. So I will be monitoring that from the small, I have been the last few weeks, but I will have it with me going forward in the morning. So if it is quite a specific question you want to address, just give me a call and we'll try to sort things out. If there's anything outstanding or you just have another question, and we can cover it then. So as I mentioned, we're going to cover the weather, which includes the race and the return. There'll be really important things to know about the race, and there's some changes in the sailing instructions. So I know you've all pulled them down off the web and read them intently and seen that there's been updates in the communication section. There's some additions, so we'll talk about that and then we'll reinforce some of the key communication elements. But as I will mention when we cover that, please read it through, have somebody very knowledgeable that on your yacht, at least one person, and things will go fine. And we've got questions at the end. We want to acknowledge and thank the numerous ORCV and Mercy Club, Yacht Club volunteers, our office staff at ORCV and their staff as well that are helping to run the race. This race starts weeks and weeks ago. We run this like a project, and we run a running sheet several weeks before the race. We've had Andrew as the race champion, and he engages all the appropriate people, and that's the club destination. It's our office people doing all the hard work for the compliance for you guys. It's myself and the race team itself. It's a whole bunch of people that come together that bring this together. So there's already many, many hours of work that have been put into getting us to today, and certainly the next 2 days as well. So we get you to the starting line and having some great time on the water. StraightLink is a great sponsor of ours, and they enable our race van to get to Tassie and back again as well. So that's much appreciated by us. So we have a very good mobile facility to monitor and manage the race from Tasmania. So I'm now going to hand over to Ray. I'm going to push the slides forward. So also play some of the animations as well, and we'll move straight into the weather.
Thanks, David. Okay, so this will start off with the barometric chart. This is as it was this morning, the outlook for the air pressure, the barometric chart over Australia. So you see there's a very large high pressure system that's currently far west, but it's going to move slowly across the bight and into over the race course Saturday evening. So if you look at the next chart, slide rather, it shows this is Saturday around race start, where the high pressure system has moved not quite over the racetrack yet, and you can see this very strong low pressure system to the southwest of that is not far behind the high pressure system. So that high pressure system is going to sit across the racetrack and dominate the weather. In fact, you'll see in the early hours of Saturday morning that high pressure is right over the racetrack, and it's going to make life a little bit challenging from a wind perspective. You can see that. I think the next slide shows some animation of how those pressure systems are moving. So you can see so by early Saturday morning, the high pressure systems right across the racetrack. So you're going to get some very light and variable winds, and of course that the low pressure system is moving in behind it. That's going to create some excitement on Sunday morning. Okay, the next chart shows what from Med-Eye, from the bomb access Med-Eye model, showing that at the race start, expect pretty decent breezes, 10 to 15 knots, southish. So that should be a pretty straightforward exit out the heads, no drama at all there. If you look at the middle of the race, early on Saturday morning, this is 2 o'clock from Windy, using the access model again. You can see out in the middle of the straight 1 knot that shows at that particular point. So early in the morning, it's the wind, if you believe the access model at this point, it's going to be very light, very variable winds, so it's not going to be a lot of fun for a while. But eventually, as the next slide shows, it fills in. And here we go a little bit later in the race, where the wind is filling in from the northeast, 10 to 15 knots. So it's going to be a little bit frustrating through the early hours of the morning, Saturday morning, but by the time as the morning progresses, the wind will fill in a bit and should have a nice run into Devonport. Okay, what about the sea state? Okay, let's have a look at that. It's an animation through the time of the race. Mostly 1.5 meters. But you'll see as that cold front comes through on Sunday morning that the sea gets a little more interesting. Here it comes. So you're going to get seas up in the 2.5 meter range, but they moderate once that front gets through, particularly as you're close to the Tasmanian coast and in the lee of King Island. Okay, here is now that so what that's telling us is that the race itself is pretty straightforward. It's going to be generally easy wins, except for a bit of light stuff through the early hours of the morning. The real challenge is going to be for the way home. And so this is, again, the access model. And you'll see that the wind, as that front goes through, the wind goes round to the west. Maybe let's play that again if we can. Okay, so you see you're getting winds of 30 knots out there, and as that front goes through. So choosing that window to go home is a key decision. So they're going to be very strong northerlies. They'll shift round to the west and gradually moderate. They'll be strong for a while, but they'll moderate. So just choosing that window to go back is a key decision. The next slide shows the European model, which is a little different. It has the front coming through a bit earlier. So I think the name of the game here is to keep an eye on these weather systems between now and the weekend, and see how they develop. You can look at Windy or Med-Eye or what have you, and just see how these two models, hopefully they converge. But clearly the trip back is going to be interesting, and so picking that weather window is critical. Okay, the next slide. This is just show you what the gusts are going to be like through the race. So this is on the way down. Not too bad, not too bad at all. Again, that's using the European model. That front coming through. Oh, okay. So what about predict wind?
We can.
Let's have it run the predict wind model.
Sorry, Ray, I cut you short there, but I'll move
to
the next one.
Yeah, okay. So here is predict wind model, pretty much in agreement. Nothing too exciting for the race. Fairly straightforward. Models agree pretty well. By the time that front starts to come through, the boats are in close to the coast or tucked away in the Mersey River. If you look at the summary conditions on the next slide, okay, this is the return. And This is for 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I'm not suggesting that's the time to leave, but I just picked that as a straw man, if you like, to show you that it's reasonably manageable. Well, it's still very breezy. If you look at the summary on the next slide, I think. So okay, this is for the it is the return trip, so it takes still about a day. The maximum wind is about 22 knots, gusting up, approaching 30. And it's a complete reaching course back, of course, with a westerly wind. About half the time in 1 to 2 meter waves, and almost another half, 40% of the time, in 2 to 3 meter waves. So it's, even leaving at 3 o'clock, it's still going to be a challenging ride back. 20 to 30 knots most of the time. 2/3 of the time you're up in the 20 odd knots, and 30% of the time you're 20 to 30 knots. So it's going to be a challenging ride back, even leaving later on Sunday afternoon. Okay, so I think the message is the race itself looks pretty straightforward. The start should be easy. The race itself will be no problem, other than a bit of frustration in Saturday morning. Boats will all be tucked up in the Mersey River before the front comes through, and then keep an eye on how those weather systems move across in the next few days, and then look carefully at picking a weather window that's manageable for the return trip. It should be okay, but leaving early Sunday is not a good idea. Leaving later is the way to go, and just keep an eye on the weather and pick something that's manageable for you and your crew. Okay, I think that's about all for me, David.
Thanks so much, Ray. And of course, you can't leave too early on Sunday, because they have the presentation around mid-morning.
There you go.
So that's our target date. So the other thing too, we know things change. We're feeling more confident. We've had great input from Ray. We've had Simon doing some media stuff as well. We know that for the start of the race, we're feeling pretty confident with the forecast and even into the race. But things will change, and we'll also keep you updated. So we'll make sure that everyone's aware as they come in what has changed, and how we can plan the journey home to be safe. Of course, we can't do this without a lot of volunteers that contribute a significant amount of time to enabling this to happen. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the weeks leading into this, but it's also on the day of the race and the days thereafter. So I'd like to give credit to the people that you see on the slide. We have a team of people who are directing the race. We've got Ray and Simon are helping with weather. From a media and destination, as you can see there, we've got Melissa, Chris, Andrew, and at Mercy, Terry Travers. And there's going to be some further information from Mersey Yacht Club that'll be put in the final reminder. So Andrew will remind us again of that later on. Of course, with incident management and medical, things don't often go wrong. They really sort of rarely go wrong, but we do have a very strong team that is there working alongside the race operations, led by Rick for this race. We've got Joe Harper and Vanessa Twigg as well on duty, and we always have a medical officer. So keep that in mind. If you have issues, you need to radio, you need to call me, you need to get in touch with TMR, please, because we have access to people that can help you out, and that includes medical advice as well. Really important, Annabelle and Hannah. And I know a lot of you have spoken and worked with these two ladies in the last couple of weeks. Hannah is quite new to the office. She's picked up things really quickly. Annabelle has been under the care of Sally Williams for a while, and she's just punching it out as well. Thanks so much. We're still learning as we go along. We're still a relatively new team that we have in this space, but I hope you've appreciated the hard work that they've done to get you to the starting line. I will also just throw in a quick one, because I know Andrew has said this about 150 times. For those who have just joined after we kicked off the presentation, please make sure in the chat you have your boat and attendee details so that we can tick you off the list. And questions, please add them to the chat and we will pick them up at the end. And the other thing that I mentioned as well is if you have anything that's specific or individual to you or your readiness for the start of the race, please ring me on the race director phone tomorrow morning onwards, and also the office is available as well, and so you can contact them. So here's our list of competitors, and the key. Sorry, I need to mute somebody. Or could somebody do that for me, please? Thank you. So our list of competitors is summarised here, and when you go to the ORCV website and you look at this race here, you will see that the competitor list now includes the handicaps. So you'll see more information. What I'm highlighting here are the key skipper roles. You can see there we've got a good handful of double-handed, and we've got a multi-hull as well. So go and have a look at that. If you've got any queries with those, just highlight again to me and I'll speak to the handicapper. But at this stage, the handicaps are locked in based on the information we have and that we can upload. And I know we've had to do a bit of running around the last couple of days, which does happen, but we've managed to get in everything that we can for all the competitors. So the communications, I've got a few slides to cover here. There's comprehensive information to in relation to the sailing instructions in the communication section. So section 13 in the main body of the SIs and Appendix A. And Appendix A has changed quite a bit. The format has been improved, simplified, and there have been changes. That is mandatory listening watches. So the key areas here we've made clearer under A11.1 and A12.1 the reporting time and position times for the HF radios and the satellite phones. One feedback just to share with you is that when we split this, sometimes there is some confusion about the use of these, and it's really, I guess, straightforward now going forward because we've been encouraging the use of satellite phones. It's an election you make as a yacht, as a competitor, if you want to use one or the other. And then we have our two pathways which have been happening over the last few weeks, where we do a HF radio check, and that's within a prescribed time with TMR, or that you do a sat phone check with the race director's phone as well. So note here, please, the position time and then the reporting time. And you can see there from those, we try to catch up the satellite phones first here with the incoming texts. And then what actually happens, just so you're aware in the race van, is we monitor the TMR call list. So they run through in alphabetical and they get all the skeds, they get all the positions. There's some weather shared at the beginning. There's any other feedback can be relayed back to TMR or us. We are monitoring that, so we are hearing what's going on, and then we can check all the skeds that we've covered them for each of the reporting time. A reminder here, please, in your personal phones or your personal phone and your sat phone, to have critically your AMSA contact number, but also the race director phone, which I'll be carrying, or somebody in the team if I'm not on duty, and also the email. So please have them available. This is a recent change that was raised through the Sailing Committee, and there's some elements of compliance under Sailing Australia, and there's also some history to these listening watches, because we used to do more regular skeds, and as things changed, we see that there's an opportunity to keep in touch, to have these new 10-minute listening watches in these days, in the hours 15:05 and 03:05. We've engaged Cordia to help us out with that, because TMR doesn't have that capability in the early hours of the morning. And this is mandatory. We would like you to do this. And during this, there'll be announcements and there'll be opportunities to relay messages back, as well as messages from the race director going out to the yachts. So please note that, and given the time of the day as well, please make sure you set alarms. So communications, I'm going to run through this table. This is a really important one to have. We've put it earlier in the appendix now. It's a single page you can print out as well, and I'll just run through a couple of highlights on there. The top yacht entry system, or TES, is now locked down. So at the moment, the office and myself can make changes. So it's not too late. And as we do the checks and verifications, we always want to make sure the crews look right, and we want to make sure that the also that the high handicaps are done and whatever. So we can do that up until tomorrow, and late changes can come into me to the last minute. And of course, as we know, for the sign-on schedule, there's an opportunity when you do POBs, if there's a differential because if somebody can't make the start, that will be realised by Ray as the race director for the start, and he will follow up with you to find out who that is. That's the sign-on schedule that I mentioned, and there's the actual language to use, which I've included in the slide, which is an extract from the sailing instruction. I mentioned about the PRB changes as well. So the important thing, as we know, is who is on board, and we're going to check that right up until the sign-on so that we have a full understanding. So we now have the position schedules and the all yacht listening watch. So I've covered that earlier, but again, just a reminder where it is in this list, and it's a new requirement. And if you can see here, what we have is as we initiate the race, after the advice for the starting sequence, we then work through the position schedules, and the first watch is 03:05 the next morning on the Saturday. So just be aware of that. We don't do an afternoon one, which is immediately after the start of the race. So that's when we commence that. I've made a note here, and this is something, as we've been encouraging boat owners and skippers to consider sat phones going forward, whether it's replacement for a new yacht or it's time for an upgrade. We've now got 40% of entrants that are using sat phone for their position reporting, and we've also got another 5% of yachts that are carrying sat phones, and they've provided us those numbers. So we'll be providing mobile phone numbers and sat phone numbers to all the skippers, so that they've got the knowledge of the potentially communicating to other yachts as well. And then finally, coming in at the end of the race, that's where the race van will be. That's where the flashing, the rotating orange light will be. For those who didn't do Devonport last year, the light is actually closer to the shore rather than being on the van. So we've now made it fully mobile, battery operated. And 60 minutes before, you have the option to radio or to text to the RD phone, the race director phone. And please do a radio in closer at using channel 73 when you're 5 minutes out. And then we can manage those concurrently, because as you can imagine, we're going to have clusters of boats coming in. There's a lot happening at that stage. Actively monitor VHF 16. That should be well known anyway. And if carrying your sat phone as well. So please just keep an eye on things. Ideally, manage a speaker or having the phone or the sat phone close to you so that you can actually hear if it's ringing. We may need to relay a message as well, and it may be that you're part of that message communication as well. So if we have vessels in distress or even vessels that have got some concerns we need to address, we're asking you to be part of that as well. I won't go through any more there. I think I sort of covered the main reasons why. The tracker. Okay, so the office is coordinating the trackers. What I'm hearing in the last couple of days is that predominantly they'll be bundled up and sent to sailing clubs for pickup, or they can be picked up from the sailing office itself at Albert Park. So turn it on before you leave the dock. Check that it's tracking. It needs to be on your pulpit at the back of the boat, clear line of sight. It will be charged, but please carry a micro USB cables just in case. So it's not the USB-C, the newest. It's not the big fat one. It's actually a USB cable in a mini form, which looks a bit like a D. So please have that available in a charger just in case. Now the good news is you'll see the tracker is a yellow one to the left, and it's brand new. We've got a whole new set of trackers we're using, and we shouldn't have any issues with batteries. We've been testing them out. We've used them for a recent Darwin race, so everything should be pretty good in that sort of respect. If you want to use the tracker for your way home, it's your responsibility to bring it back. Don't bring it back later than the 15th of November, please. There will be additional costs if it's beyond the end of the month, because we pay an additional subscription. So for this race, we're paying a month subscription for utilisation. If it does go beyond, it costs us more money. We've covered this now a few times in the last 18 months or so, but I will recap. Even if you've done the coastal sprints, you will be well aware of the obstructions in relation to the exit from the heads, and some suggestions here. Make sure it's in your plotter. Make sure somebody's keeping an eye on this. We do occasionally have a boat that actually cuts the corner at the end, and that will be penalised. So please watch out for that. And of course, for the return voyage, skippers who enter the RIP, please use the Fort West ISO flashing beacons. So there are guides on that. And if you've done some of the training, or you will be more familiar with this, but just keep an eye on that on your way back. If you haven't done the RIP tour and you're new to Port Phillip, maybe you're from Tassie, because we know we have Tassie boats and you will come back, try to think about maybe giving that a go next year when we run it in the first half of the year. The pilot boarding ground is unlikely to be an issue, but again, have this in your plotter so that you're aware of it. The YOLO A platform, we've now included it in the sailing instruction. So we did identify this and communicate it in some earlier races. What I suggest is sail well clear of the coordinates we've provided. There are discrepancies. So even what we've plotted, we've found some discrepancies even from the operators and the regulators in exactly where this thing is. We're not far out. We're only talking, I think, a maximum of about 150 metres. But if you're anywhere near there, and I don't think you will be, I think you'll probably be west of the rum line, just keep an eye out for it. Here's a real surprise. Thanks to Mark Welsh. He's the skipper on Wicked, not Wicker. So we've not renamed your boat, Mark. And a few others highlighted that more than a year ago, there was a notice that went out talking about this little device that's in the bottom right. It looks tiny. It's not that small, but it's about 2 meters long. It's lit, and it's actually doing scientific work, and not so helpful in those plotted areas. So it could be anywhere. So all I suggest is keep an eye out. I don't believe it's been hit by anyone before. There's a lot of commercial traffic through there as well. So maybe it's smart enough to keep clear, but just FYI, we've got that little guy out there somewhere. Okay, so I've talked about the finishing reports. There is an extract from the sailing instructions for the finishing light. I've mentioned the orange light, which is now better, because what happened was over the years, the foliage grew up around near the finishing line, and it's not effective on the van. So thanks to Rick Head, who rigged up with myself last year at short notice, a mobile version of that, and that's working very well. Obviously, dropping sails and motoring up the river is good advice once you've finished. Watch out for commercial shipping, and we're hoping to have an escort tender, and if required, but there is a channel there, VHF. So if unsure, contact us in the van or call on VHF 73. What we've got here, and this package, by the way, will be available on the web tomorrow, is a summary of the commercial shipping in the channel. But of course, if you go to Port Control VTS, you can go to the websites and you can go and check this out for yourself. But you can see there's enough movements in this area that you may come across a vessel entering or exiting the river at that time. If that is the case, of course, what you need to do is avoid. You need to mark your position, take a photo, mark it in a log. You can motor and move out of the way safely, and then come back to that position, and then contact me so that we can understand what the impact is to you. I'm now going to hand over to Andrew, and he's going to cover what happens next and some other news about the club.
Thank you, David. Okay, so a big thanks to Terry and the team at Mersey Yacht Club. They've put in a lot of work to make sure that we'll be welcomed appropriately when we get there. The key is that there's a multi-page document that's going to be part of the email that comes out tomorrow, the final reminders. Please print that document and read it before you start the race. There's many things that have changed and it can be tricky getting in, so please read that and make sure some people in your crew know what they're doing. There'll be 2 boats out on the water to meet people, a larger boat and a rib, and there'll be people on the docks to handle the lines. So please pay attention to those ribs and don't cut corners. There's a couple of new features in the Mersey River. There's a new reclaimed piece of land and also a new rock wall there. So please pay attention and follow the rib in. There's also a green marker which we ignore. It no longer marks the channel and it's shallow to the north of it, so keep away from that. This will all be in the notes for you. Maybe we go to the next slide, please, David. Okay, so you can see there the new wharf and the new reclamation area. As you're heading in, the deepest water is closest to that rock wall on the reclaimed area. So at night that can be scary, but that's the right place to be. When you're getting closer to the yacht club, please don't just pick a spot and park. We need to organise boats with the right drafts and right lengths, and we've got plans in place as to who should go where, roughly based on when we think people are going to arrive. So please pay attention to where you should be, and everything will go smoothly. Also, make sure you have plenty of fenders on board and plenty of lines. We could be rafting up to 5 deep here, particularly as boats are staying who previously were perhaps going to spin around. So please just patience, everybody, and we'll get everybody in. As I say, the team at Mersey have done an awful lot of work, and they're ready for us to come in. Perhaps have a look at ferry gliding one more time. It's not like coming into a marina where there's still water. There will be a current, so have a look and make sure that you can control your boat slowly as you're coming in to raft up. Thanks, David. Okay, so there's a lot of things here. I guess bring your fenders. We might be 5 deep, and so that means we need to be courteous when we're in a big raft like that. Walk in front of the mast. Just treat other people's boats as you'd like yours to be treated. I think that's probably everything to say there. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of hospitality, again, the crew have been doing a fantastic job. As we get there, there will be food available. Similar to last year, sausages, burgers, toasties. But given that we might be arriving at a more reasonable hour, it's possible. We've tried to think outside the square in terms of other things that we can organise. So certainly crews can organise things themselves in terms of getting delivery to the club up until about 10 o'clock at night. That'll work. Or if people want to go out and do pickup, the club's kindly offered a minivan. It's a manual, so you need to be confident driving a manual, but a minivan that you can then take up, and if you want to pick up McDonald's or whatever it might be, you can do all that. On Sunday, there's a few options. As David said, the briefing will aim for mid-morning. We're aiming for 10:30. That might change. But the club will be cooking some scrambled eggs and beans and bacon and toast. They'll have coffee available and also a lighter breakfast of waffles and fruit for those that want it. That's not going to be may not be enough for everybody, and some people might choose to do something different. So we'd have discussed with the Argosy Motel, which is only about 300 metres away. They're doing a full breakfast from 6:30 till 9, which gives us plenty of time to get back for the presentation. they would appreciate if you can call, if you think you're going to do that, call and let them know, but they'll be able to cope with people turning up there. In your package, as well as the backstay and the tracker, there's a complimentary drinks voucher, so please use that at the bar. And I'm not sure, Terry, whether we have the late license organised. We're trying to organise that so that we can continue to party politely after midnight, which is when the licence normal finishes. We'll say that the club is completely volunteer based, the people behind the bar, the people serving food, everything. So please be appreciative, and if things take a little bit longer, just be patient with it. And as we've already said, 10:30 for the presentation. So look for that that flyer that will come out tomorrow. Many pages, many photos. Some of the deeper draft boats may have to moor up on a barge, and then we'll be able to run you ashore. But that's all in the notes, so please have a good look and read before you're making a call to say, hey, race director, we're approaching the finish line. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. And yeah, I think that's covered it very well. I've had a little bit of a look in the chat, and it seems like a number of questions are being answered by our team, including Andrew, so that's really good. So we'll go back and review them in a moment. I've got some slides now that I'm hoping Melissa Warren can run through, and just want to check, Mel, if you're there. And
yeah, I'm here. I know I am under a man's name, but excuse me, my laptop died, so I'm just but yeah, it is very much me. Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, David, for running such a good session. I am Melissa Warren, marketing and membership manager. So we had such a good turnout down in Geelong, where we had a waterfront cleanup, that we've decided to do it again down in Mersey. So please do join Lil. Lil will be leading this. Please do join her on the Sunday on the balcony at about 8 o'clock to 8:30, and she'll take us down, and we can all clean up the waterfront there. And of course, to say thank you, there'll be a free coffee. So please do encourage all your crews, and of course, please do join us. It will be a great time. If you just go to the second slide.
Sure, I'd like to do it as well. So can you guys make sure you all get in on time so I can do the results and get my free coffee?
Well, we hope you can join too. All right, so as always, we've had some really good feedback from a number of the crews. They said that they love our WhatsApp channels for each of the races that we hold. So please do look out for the code and the link to join this race's WhatsApp group. And we are running a competition. Now, normally we ask for photos, but we actually want video as many videos as possible this time. Well, a mixture of both photo and video, but mainly video. We're running 2 competitions. One, we are asking you to show us your trash and tell us what you do with it. As you know, sustainability is high on our agenda. So we do want to showcase on social media and amongst our peers just how good we are at recycling. So anything that you're doing to promote sustainable sailing would be great. And as you can see there, we've asked you to use Clean Oceans as a hashtag. Obviously, tag ORCV, whether it's on Instagram or on Facebook, and share it in the channel too. Okay. So if we go to the next slide. So this is, I've kind of got 6 points, and it's very, very short for us. So I know everyone's going to be busy sailing, but when you do, sorry, someone just put you on mute.
Looks like okay. Oh, you're back. Sorry, Mel. Yeah,
that's okay. I won't be too much longer. So I do have 6 points for us all. and there will be a competition here. So please do make sure that you fly your backstay flags, just, you know, as a show of community. And of course, if you could take pictures and photos of that, that would be great. We will be engaging the media, so please do be on standby for a potential interview. We don't know which boat we're going to reach out to as of yet, but that could be a possibility. So just be on standby if you're interested, of course. Now, as you know, Facebook and Instagram are our main channels. So again, similarly, as I mentioned before, show us your cruise, show us your boats, inside your boats, on your boats, send us updates, funny stories, you know, how you're doing. Of course, you know, we've all got families who are very patient with us when we go out on such long races, and I'm sure they're interested in wanting to see what we do out on the water. So please do share some of your stories with them too through our channels. I know that there's a couple of sailors in some of your crews who's doing their first ocean race. So if there's, you know, things like that or anything that you're celebrating, we want to be part of it as well. So please do share that. And again, lastly, you know, just check your crew profiles and your boat trackers and share that on social media. If you have any questions, please do reach out to me or any of the ORCV members, but just do take a look out for that WhatsApp group. Okay, thank you.
Now, there was a question about the channel. That will just be automatically set up, will it, Melissa?
Yeah, it'll be set up, but a link will be sent to everyone's phones tomorrow for you to join it. And it will also, the instructions will also be in the final reminders as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
And we're back to Andrew. Who may be on mute.
I was on mute. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
Okay. So I think this is to wrap up. Remember, this is a long race. People want a good start, but let's go easy at the start line. Play nicely. That'd be great. Thank you. And we remind people that it's the boat's decision and their decision alone to participate in the race or to continue racing. As Melissa said, please promote the event to everybody, get them to watch the tracker, have a look at Facebook, and that's all those links are at the ORCV website. And let's have some fun out there. Respect each other, particularly respect the volunteers and our hosts. They've done heaps of work, and we have an ORCV code of conduct, which we're all committed to. And as participants, we want you to abide by that as well. Now, heading home, as we mentioned, there's a possibility we'll be having to stay a bit later, but we need to know your plans and particularly if they change. That's part of the crew declaration, but if that changes, please let us know. Look out for each other as you're heading back and monitor each other. Keep your tracker on while you're heading home, and then turn it off when you tie up, and return it, please, to ORCV by November the 15th. There'll be penalties if you don't return it, fines, sorry. So please return it to ORCV by November 15th. We want you to keep in contact with us. We have a duty of care, so message the race director once you pass in through the heads. And there'll be minimum oversight on the way home, but we will still be on standby. So if something happens, contact us.
Thanks, Andrew. And just a reminder too, with changing plans, that includes retirements. So we still occasionally get a retirement on a race with no communications. Now we can guess that when we see a boat do a U-turn on the tracker, and then we usually try to run them down and see if we can get in touch. And that may be through a relay with TMR. But please, if you are retiring, please try to communicate with whatever means you have, including radio. And if you pick up a coastal station, they will contact us and we'll know what's going on. Thank you. So we're coming to the end. Now, I think Andrew, and also we've had Catherine North helping with the management of the presentation tonight, go through and try to answer all the outstanding questions. I've not been able to check them all, but perhaps I'll leave it open to Andrew and Catherine to pick up any that we do need to address. And that may include, are there any other participants we just need to call out now in case they haven't had a chance to put their name or we haven't seen them in the list to make sure we've checked off all the boats?
Can I just cut in here? I haven't seen anyone from Foggy Dew, Janan, or MRV.
Okay, so we've got Robert and Janet, which would be in Foggy Dew. Only got 2 there. We've got a bunch of people from Janan, so I'm not sure. And what was the third one?
MRV. Have you seen Robert and Janet?
I haven't seen them.
Catherine,
Yes.
MRV, Damien and Mark have emailed ORCV to say that they're online. They just can't put it in the chat.
Yeah, Catherine, we're here. We just can't. I can't enter the chat. I can't find the chat for some reason. But we.
Oh, that's
Okay,
fine.
I've got,
Yeah.
now.
Got you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks. Cheers.
Okay, well, I think we've done the best just for the attendance, but that sounds really good. If there's only a couple we need to follow up, we will do that. Again, a reminder, we will be, okay, somebody's left. Okay, so this will be posted to the website tomorrow. So if others on the yachts or your yachts wish to go through the briefing, which I do encourage, you can actually find that link. Andrew, any outstanding questions you picked up that you think we need to address in the forum?
No, there were a couple of things we need to check with the sailing instructions. Thanks, David. And the trackers should be on the stern of the boat. I think David said pull pit needs to go on the push pit.
Yes, I actually read. I think it's actually wrong, and I read the word there, so we need to update that one.
So
I think that's been there for a while.
Put the tracker on the stern, please. I think that was most of it.
I just saw Robert come in.
Sorry, can I ask a question? It's Matt Fay, Faster Forward. Just want some clarification as to why for this race, ORCV have chosen to impose more stringent conditions on nav charts than in the special regulations, please.
Could you be a bit more specific there?
Sure.
Matt?
In the notice of race, you nominate that we must carry paper charts or ENC charts. The special regulations don't require for yacht races for Cat 1 or 2 to carry ENC charts.
That's a good point. Yeah. Paul, I think we've got Paul on the line. This may be something that has changed recently. I might have to get back to you on Matt, and then we'll have to see where we are.
It's a significant impost, David. It's a significant impost from what the actual Cat 1 and 2 requirements are.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, have we got Paul Roberts on? Because Paul was our past sailing captain. Let's just have a look. Okay, Matt. I'll get back to you. Any others, Andrew?
I think that's it, David.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, I'm just seeing a note there, paper or ENC chart. So I think the paper has always been our expectation, but we will pick up on the NC part. Is that all, Andrew?
Yep, I believe so.
That's good. Fantastic. Well, we've got a couple. There's an answer from Dave Richardson there, so thanks for that. that's the wrap. I think we're at the end. And again, thank you for the large number of entries that we've had for this race. As Andrew said, it's going to be very exciting. We're looking forward to being part of it. We're looking forward to enabling the race for you guys to have a good time and be safe. And we're looking forward to also catching you having a great time at the destination as well, and having the presentation. So good night to everybody, and we'll see you on the water.
Thank you.